Hi, I'm Wayne Allyn for RootForAmerica.com. The readers of my commentaries are well aware I'm not a fan of MGM CEO Jim Murren. I've called him the worst CEO in America because he entangled his company, MGM Resorts International, in radical leftist politics, including CARE, an organization tied to terror and called by many experts a front group for Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. I actually felt bad for MGM when the Vegas mass murder tragedy first happened. But it's important to study every possibility if we want to prevent future tragedies. So the question is, could this have happened to any Vegas resort? Or were there factors at play at MGM that led to this property being chosen for this terrible event? I found several troubling revelations regarding Jim Murren and MGM. We owe it to the victims and survivors to openly discuss everything and anything that could lead us to prevent future attacks. First of all, was the CEO of MGM focused on his properties? Did he have his eye on the ball? Was the security of his customers a main priority, or was he distracted? SEC records for the month of September reveal a strange and troubling development. More than $200 million in insider selling from MGM officers and directors in September. The ringleader of this sell-off was the CEO, Jim Murren. From July to early September, Murren sold off over 80% of his MGM stock. Strange timing. It certainly paints the picture of a CEO with a complete lack of faith in his own company. Or did Murren have one foot out the door? Was he distracted? Was he perhaps making plans to leave? Why else would a CEO sell off a large majority of the shares he owns in his own company? Was Murren focused on MGM security as a major terror attack was being planned at his property? Or was he too busy selling off his shares at the right price into the open market without Wall Street noticing? Interestingly, MGM's top executives and key board members also sold huge amounts of stock in September. How about this eye-popping number? In the past 3 months, according to SEC Form number 4, MGM insiders sold off 6.3 million shares. Guess how many those same insiders bought? 0. That's got to be the most troubling insider bottom line in Wall Street history. 6.3 million to 0. Also in September, while MGM CEO and insiders were selling off huge amounts of company stock, MGM announced a $1 billion stock buyback program. In other words, they used other people's money, their shareholders' money, to buy back MGM stock on the open market to prop up the price so they could sell 6.3 million of their own shares and get a great price. Talk about the world's worst conflict of interest. Shareholders were forced to spend $1 billion to buy undervalued MGM stock at the same time the CEO and his team couldn't wait to get out. Evidently, the CEO and those insiders, desperate to sell 6.3 million shares in a short period of time, didn't find the shares very undervalued, did they? Question: what if MGM had used that same $1 billion to upgrade security, or hire twice as many security staff, or hire retired Navy SEALs or Green Berets to protect their guests instead of to prop up their stock price while the CEO and his friends were all selling? A few more troubling observations. Jim Murren was appointed by Barack Obama to the Homeland Security Council. From that perch, Murren certainly had insider access to the detailed threats aimed at America and Vegas. What did he do to adequately safeguard his guests? Several MGM security guards and ex-MGM security guards have called my national radio show in recent days. They described MGM security as woefully undertrained and understaffed. Another ex-MGM security guard called to say Murren's first act in taking over Luxor and Mandalay Bay was to disarm most of the guards and declare MGM hotels a gun-free zone. Maybe that's why Paddock chose Mandalay. Interestingly, I've always despised hypocrites. Those same MGM security guards and ex-security guards calling my show claim that Murren walks around with an armed security detail at all times. They even say Murren's son was at an MGM pool party at Wet Republic this summer. Guess who was standing by his side? An armed security guard. Again, this is all hearsay. I wasn't there, but it sure sounds typical. Smug, arrogant, self-righteous liberals always believe in fairness, equality, and social justice for you, but a different set of rules apply to them. They're against walls for our Mexican border, but they live in walled, gated estates. They're for higher taxes for you, but they keep their money in offshore accounts where they pay 0. They're for gun control, but they always have armed bodyguards for themselves. They call conservatives racist, but they live in 100% white neighborhoods, send their kids to 100% white private schools, drive around in limos, and fly private jets. Another question: why is the timeline for Mandalay guard Jesus Campos changed so many times? Did he approach the shooter's room before or after the mass murder started? If it was before, why weren't the police called in a timely fashion? Is Campos legally in the USA, or did MGM hire an illegal alien? Why do media organizations discover he's not registered as a security guard in the state of Nevada? Could it be because he's illegal? Why did he run away from media interviews? Why are armed guards posted at his home, and who paid for those guards? Did the shooter choose a MGM property because VIP high roller clients at MGM hotels were free to use service elevators, thereby avoiding scrutiny? Is that how he got all the guns up to his room? That's not allowed at other hotels in Vegas. Did CEO Murid sign for a special terrorism rider on MGM's liability insurance policy? Or did he try and save millions by self-insuring his properties against terrorism? After all, MGM is deeply in debt. Was he trying to save money by skimping on security? By skimping on insurance? Will a designation of terrorism versus a straightforward criminal mass murder affect the payout from MGM's insurance policy? Could MGM be putting pressure on law enforcement and politicians to name this a criminal act instead of terrorism? Would that designation save them billions of dollars in liability? Inquiring minds want to know. Finally, I hear MGM hired a crisis management PR firm. That will cost millions of dollars. Smart move. Something tells me MGM's going to need all the crisis management they can get. We owe it to the victims and survivors to get answers to these questions and to find out why this mass murder happened. In America, we don't allow billion-dollar corporations, media, or law enforcement to lie to the people, do we? The American people want the truth. The American people demand the truth. I'm Wayne Allyn for Root for America. God bless America.